In Britain, there are railway lines that millions of people travel every year. And then, there are lines no one talks about. Not because they are dangerous. Not because they are closed. But because of what sometimes rides on them. After midnight. This story begins on the night of October 17th, 2019. A night so ordinary that nothing about it suggested it would later become one of the most disturbing investigations in modern British transport history. The 11:47 p.m. service from London, Euston to the rural market town of Blackmere, a small, forgotten place in the Midlands, was running on time. According to official records, the weather was typical for autumn: light rain, heavy fog, temperature just above freezing. Visibility on the tracks was less than 50 meters. Inside carriage C, only 4 passengers were present. One of them was Daniel Harper, 28 years old, freelance journalist, no criminal record, no history of mental illness, no known interest in the paranormal. He had spent the evening covering a local council corruption meeting near Camden. His editor had pushed him to catch the last train home rather than stay overnight. Daniel later stated, "I remember being annoyed. I was tired. I just wanted to sleep. Nothing about the night felt strange. That's what makes it worse." He boarded the train at 11:41 p.m., bought a coffee from the platform machine, sat by the window, seat 42B. Across the carriage sat a middle-aged businessman reading financial reports, a teenage girl with headphones, an elderly man in a flat cap, eyes closed. CCTV footage later confirmed their presence. The train departed at exactly 11:47 p.m. For the first 20 minutes, nothing unusual occurred. The train passed through the outer London suburbs, then into open countryside. Fog thickened. Mobile signal faded. The carriage lights dimmed slightly as the train switched to night power mode. Daniel's phone battery dropped to 3%. At 12:12 a.m., something happened that should not have happened. The train began to slow. Not for a scheduled stop. Not for a signal failure. But in the middle of open farmland. The braking was gradual, controlled, as if approaching a platform. Outside the window,
A platform, old, cracked concrete, overgrown with weeds, and a sign barely visible in the yellow light. Blackmere Halt, closed 1983. Daniel frowned. He knew the Blackmere line well. He had traveled it dozens of times. There was no operational stop here. The train came to a full halt. Then something even stranger happened. The doors unlocked and opened.
Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of wet soil and rust.
No announcement was made. No conductor appeared. Silence filled the carriage. Through the mist, a single figure stood on the platform. A woman, still, waiting. She wore a long gray coat buttoned to the neck. Her hair was dark, tied in a low bun, in a style that had not been fashionable for decades. In her hand, she held a small leather handbag, worn and cracked with age. She stepped forward. Her shoes made no sound on the platform. She entered the carriage. The doors closed behind her, and the train began to move again. Daniel later described the moment like this. "It felt wrong in a way I can't explain. Like when you realize someone has entered your house without permission, but you don't know how they got in." The woman did not look around. She walked slowly down the aisle and sat directly opposite Daniel. Only then did he notice her face. Pale, not sickly pale,
Not tired pale.
but the colorless gray of old photographs. Her eyes were dark, deep, unfocused, as if she were looking not at the present, but at something far behind it. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. The other passengers were still there. The businessman turned a page. The girl tapped her phone. The old man slept, yet the temperature around Daniel dropped sharply. He could see his breath. Then the woman spoke. Very quietly, "Is this the last train to London, or the last train to Blackmere?" Her voice carried a faint echo, as though the carriage were much larger than it appeared. Daniel replied automatically, "Blackmere. We passed London 20 minutes ago." She nodded slowly. "I always forget where the journey ends." She paused, then asked, "Do you know what happened on this line? The last time the fog was this thick?" Daniel shook his head. "No, what happened?" She turned her face fully toward him, and for the first time, her eyes focused. "They lost us." The carriage lights flickered. Once. Twice. And in that brief moment of darkness, the other passengers were gone. To be continued in Part 2, The Closed Station and the Woman's Secret,